For years, the truth stayed hidden, the victim forgotten, the case left cold, until science revealed what time could not. This is Decades in the Dark, where cold cases are brought back to light. It was June 13th, 1996, in Idaho Falls, Idaho, a quiet town where violent crime was rare. That morning, a co-worker at a local beauty products company stopped by the apartment of 18-year-old Angie Dodge. She had missed her first day on the job. That wasn't like her. Angie had just graduated high school. She was bright, with long blonde hair, blue eyes, and a quick, radiant smile. She was smart, curious, and driven. She loved science, and dreamed of one day becoming a molecular biologist. Her future was just beginning. But when her co-worker opened the door, that future shattered. Angie was lying on her bedroom floor, half-dressed, covered in blood. She had been raped and stabbed to death. The scene was brutal. Her throat had been slit, and there were over a dozen stab wounds. The attack was savage, frenzied. Investigators found semen on her body and bedding, a clear sign. The killer had left DNA behind, but no one in the system matched, and there were no leads. With pressure mounting, police turned to someone loosely connected to Angie's circle. Christopher Tapp, a 20-year-old with no criminal record. He wasn't a suspect at first. He voluntarily came in to talk, hoping to help. But that changed when police mentioned Ben Hobbs, a friend of Tapp's who had just been arrested for an unrelated rape in another state. Hobbs had once spoken about Angie. That thin connection was enough to set off a chain reaction. Over the next few weeks, Tapp was interrogated 7 times across 23 days. He was isolated, lied to, fed details about the crime, threatened with the death penalty. He was told he failed a polygraph, even when he hadn't. Eventually, Tapp broke. He confessed, but the story kept changing. He named different accomplices, got major facts wrong. Meanwhile, police had collected significant physical evidence from Angie's apartment: a semen sample, unidentified fingerprints, a knife sheath with no weapon, and signs of a violent struggle. None of it, not one shred, pointed to Tapp. His DNA wasn't on the body, the bedding, or anywhere in the apartment. But this was 1996. DNA testing was still in its early stages. Investigators could compare DNA samples, but only if they had a suspect to compare them to. National databases like CODIS were just beginning, and forensic genealogy, the breakthrough that would one day solve this case, didn't exist yet. So when Tapp confessed, the police didn't ask many more questions. In 1998, he was convicted of Angie's rape and murder, despite the DNA and physical evidence that said otherwise. But one person wasn't convinced. Not for a minute. Angie's mother, Carol Dodge, had watched every minute of those taped interrogations, and what she saw broke her. "That's not the truth," she said. "That's not how my daughter died." Carol believed her daughter had been taken not once, but twice. First by her killer, and again by a justice system that locked up the wrong man. She began to fight. She pushed for retesting of the DNA. She partnered with the Innocence Project. She reached out to outside experts. She wouldn't stop, not until Angie's real killer was found. In 2017, after Tapp had been behind bars for 20 years, the walls finally began to crack. A new round of DNA testing confirmed what Carol Dodge had always known. Christopher Tapp could not have raped her daughter. The semen found inside Angie, the key physical evidence in the case, simply didn't match him. It was proof, not speculation, not a theory. Scientific proof that the man sitting in prison for rape was innocent of the act itself. Tapp's rape conviction was thrown out, but inexplicably, the murder charge still stood, based solely on a confession that was full of holes, and the real killer? Still out there. That's when Carol took justice into her own hands. She contacted C.C. Moore, a genetic genealogist known for using public DNA databases to solve the unsolvable. Moore uploaded the unknown rapist's DNA profile to GED Match, a public genealogy platform. Bit by bit, she built out a family tree of the suspect, from third cousins to second cousins, until a name emerged: Brian Drips, a man who, in 1996, had lived directly across the street from Angie Dodge. Idaho Falls police didn't tip him off. They followed him, watched, waited. Then, one day, he tossed a cigarette. Investigators grabbed it and sent it to the lab. It matched. After 23 years, the DNA profile that had once gone nowhere now had a name. Brian Drips told police he had been drunk the night he broke into Angie's apartment. He said he didn't know her personally, but he had seen her. She lived just across the street. Maybe he had watched her come and go. Maybe he had planned more than he admitted. That night, he said he was mad at the world. He had been drinking heavily. He was unemployed. His life felt like it was falling apart. And in that state, he claimed he decided to hurt someone. Anyone. So he walked across the street with a knife in his pocket and waited for the right moment. He entered Angie Dodge's apartment while she was asleep. She woke up. There was a struggle. She fought back, but drips overpowered her. He raped her. Then, using the knife, he slit her throat and stabbed her repeatedly to make sure she wouldn't survive. Then he cleaned up what he could and left. The next day, he went on with his life. He told no one. For over 2 decades, he lived in relative silence. And this wasn't the first time Brian Drips had crossed the line. In 1997, just 1 year after Angie's murder, he was arrested for a gun-related assault on a woman in Caldwell, Idaho. He pled guilty, received probation, and quietly slipped back into obscurity. A predator hiding in plain sight, until DNA caught up with him. It had taken 23 years, but now, the truth had a name. In 2021, Brian Drips pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and rape. He was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 20 years. At the sentencing, Carol Dodge faced him directly. She spoke for Angie, for the life that was stolen. "You brutally murdered my daughter," she said, "and then lived your life like nothing ever happened." And across the courtroom sat Christopher Tapp, finally free. After spending more than 2 decades in prison for a crime he didn't commit, he had been fully exonerated. Since his release, Tapp has worked with the Innocence Project to advocate for the wrongfully convicted. He speaks to law students, trains public defenders, shares his story. His time was stolen, but he's using the years he has left to make sure what happened to him never happens again. And Carol Dodge, the mother who never stopped, finally got the answers she had waited decades for. She lost her daughter, but she refused to lose the truth. This wasn't just a story of catching a killer. It was about unraveling lies, undoing injustice, and how one mother and one strand of DNA brought the truth to light. This is Decades in the Dark, where science brings the past to light. Subscribe for more stories where justice never expires.